Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Even Beaver Show. Uh, I have a quick show for you today because I'm tired. Look at me, my eyes are all fat. What a week, what a week, what a week. Well, here we are. We got to keep it going. This is our first show for 2022, and I'm going to make it nice for you. I think I have a really cool topic that I want us to explore today. But before we get into it, we got to run that beautiful bean footage. Let's run that beautiful bean footage. All right, peoples, welcome back to the Even People Show. So, the show I have for you today, and before I even get into that, Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year to the fans of the Even People Show. Happy New Year to everyone that has been checking in, viewing the show over the year. Well, we had our anniversary last year, so we're banging in there now. Thank you for staying tuned to the Even People Show. Thank you for checking in whenever time we go live. So before I even get into what I want to talk about tonight, I want to take a quick second and talk about uh, an answer to a question that I heard the late great Bob Marley. He was in an interview, or someone was in an interview talking about them, and they were talking about Bob and how they became Bob Marley and the Wailers. And Bob was saying, you know how Bob talks. I didn't tell anybody to. What's up, Patrice? Bless up yourself, my dear. Bob says, I didn't tell anybody to say Bob Marley and the Wailers. They just started saying Bob Marley and the Wailers, so I went with it. Me personally, I consider myself to be a whaler because they were whaling whalers at one time, right? But someone else talking on the same topic said that with Bob Marley, Bob actually became the lead singer even though he wasn't the most experienced, he wasn't really the one with the connections. But he became the lead singer because when he was singing lead, they had that distinguished sound. So if you listen to Bob Marley the way I listen to Bob Marley, you'll come across an album called what's it called? I don't remember what the album's called, but in that album, they take turns singing lead. So Bob sings lead on one song, Peter sings lead on one song, Bunny Wailer sings lead on another song. And the Vimbai, Happy New Year to you as well, my dear. Bless up yourself. And in that album, like I said, they take turns singing lead on the songs. But their producer said Bob should sing lead because when he sings lead, the band has a distinguished sound. Okay, so when Bunny sings lead, yes, it's still a good band. They're still making good music, but they're not distinguished. They sound like just another reggae band. When Peter sings lead, they are a good band, but they don't sound distinguished. When Bob sings lead, then they have a distinguished sound. And then that's how the group kind of became known as Bob Marley and the Wailers, because Bob kind of kept singing lead because when he sings lead, the band is distinguished. Now, my application of that to you today is as it relates to the people you hang around with. You need to make sure for 2022 that when the people you are around, you being in the lead, has a distinction to it. Because if you are following somebody else's lead and you are just another person following somebody else's lead, then that's not really the position you want to be in. You need to make sure that when you are in the lead, you are going in the direction that you want to be going. You are sounding the way you want to be sounding. You're presented the way you want to be presented. And if that is the case, then yes, you're good. If that's not the case, then you probably need to change something. You probably need to either change the people you hang out with. You need to hang out with different people. Something needs to change. All right? All right. And that was just my little segue for you today. So we're going to get into tripping. Now, I started, and it's going to be a quick show today. I started thinking about tripping the other day, and I kind of put it together. And the things that I want to look at, it says, do you know when you're tripping? Do you know when you're tripping? Can you identify when you are tripping? And then we're going to look at what's tripping. The people that are around you, when you are tripping, how do they respond? Do they, facilitate your tripping? Do they tell you that you're tripping, or do they cosign your tripping? Now, and which of these is how you want to be? So let's look at tripping for a second. Let's look at what tripping is to begin with. Yeah. So if you Google tripping, and that's how I have it spelled, as you see it sliding across the screen there, no G, just TRIPPIN. Tripping says behaving in an irrational or crazy way. Simply, behaving in an irrational or crazy way. Now, a friend of mine and I, we kind of came up with our own definition of tripping, and it's a little bit more detailed. So bear with me here. It says when someone is in their head, or when someone thinks something that is not substantiated by any evidence, but they believe it to be true, before seeking validation for their thoughts. They go ahead and act on their assumption. They go ahead and act on their unsubstantiated thoughts with the assumption that they believe the thoughts are true and correct. And this typically creates friction between them and the people around them. So let's look at that again. It says, when someone is in their head, okay, we're defining tripping. I'm defining tripping according to Martin's dictionary, okay? And it is when someone is in their head, when they think something that is not substantiated by any evidence, but they believe it to be true, and before seeking validation for their thoughts, they go ahead and act on the unsubstantiated thoughts with the assumption that they are true, okay? So basically, it's when you think something is a particular way, and it's not that way, but you just carry on like it is, you act on it like it is, and it's really not that way, but you are convinced, and in you acting upon it, you create friction with the people around you, and in my opinion, that's tripping. So let's look at the application of tripping for a second. Yeah. Now, the first thing that came to mind was thinking someone doesn't like you. Thinking someone doesn't like you. Now, there are a lot of time and a lot of things that happen that make you think someone does not like you. Does the person not like you? Maybe. But do you know that the person doesn't like you? No, you don't. And you assume the person doesn't like you probably because the first interaction you had with them was on a day or a time that they were not feeling themselves. They had a toothache, they were on their period, they never ate all day. And because of your initial interaction, you drew a conclusion that they don't like you. And you go forward treating that person, potentially even telling other people that this person doesn't like you, treating the person like they don't like you, when in truth and in fact, you have no idea if this person likes you or not. It is because you had some unsubstantiated facts. You had something that you conjured up into your brain, and you convinced yourself of it without testing the theory to be false or true. You convince yourself of it, and you move forward with it as if it is the gospel. It is not the gospel. You are wrong. It is false, but you're treating it as fact. That, ladies and gentlemen, is tripping. That is you acting out of sorts. That is you taking unsubstantiated facts, treating them to be true, and drawing assumptions and coming to conclusions because of it. Okay? Let's look at some other scenarios of tripping. Being jealous and not knowing that you're jealous. If you're just joining, we're talking about tripping. I gave the definition of tripping before, and we're looking at scenarios of tripping. That we looked at one before. The one I'm looking at now is being jealous and not knowing that you're jealous. So this happens. This happens every day. This happens more often than you know. You'll be in a situation. You're there with your significant other. Somebody passes, and your significant other looks at the person. And because of your perception of the person, you think your significant other likes the person. So if you're a male, you're a male, you're sitting with your female, and a nice female passed by, and you look at the female, and your significant other sitting across from you thinks you like the female. And because of that, they start tripping. They're acting on an unsubstantiated fact or an assumption on their part that you like the female. And because of that, dinner or lunch or brunch or whatever occasion you guys were out on just got ruined because she got it in her head that you like the girl that just walked past. And because of that, her entire demeanor for the rest of the evening changed as a result of that. Is she tripping? You just looked at the female because you thought her outfit looks nice, or she walks funny, or her shirt is not tucked in all the way. Whatever the actual reason was that you looked at her is irrelevant because the person doing the perceiving, on the other hand, perceived that you liked the person, and they took that as the gospel according to Jesus Christ, ran with it, and here you are now in a situation where you're tripping, or your significant other is tripping because of their perception that they ran with. Okay? And if you catch this show now, or if you catch it later, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. Let's look at another one. Another one is being covetous and not knowing that you're being covetous. What does Vimbai have to say? Or her tag is hanging out? Yes, that's exactly what that's exactly what I'm saying. Her tag, the tag on the thing she's wearing is hanging out. She walks by, your significant other looks at the tag that's hanging out, and you think your significant other is checking out the person, and they're not. And you ruin you ruin a perfectly the potential for a perfectly good evening because you thought your significant other looked at woman that went by, and they totally did not even look at the woman at all, or they looked at the woman but not for the reason you thought they were looking at the woman. Okay, Patrice is saying sometimes jealousy, insecurity, culturally entrenched in are used synonymously. There's a common saying that if you love someone, then you must be jealous of them. If you love someone, then you must be jealous of them. Okay, and you know what, Patrice? That might have a place. You being jealous of someone of the person that you love might genuinely have a place. And there's even nothing wrong with that. However, we're not talking about a situation that is warranted of you being jealous. We're talking about a misconception. Tripping is you perceiving something to be true that is actually not true, and acting on the thing that you perceive to be true, but it's unsubstantiated, and essentially you are in your head. So yes, it's okay to be jealous of the person you love. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And if a situation presents itself that warrants such jealousy, fine. But you have to be able to. This brings us to the second question. Can you identify when you're tripping? Can you identify when you're tripping? So Patrice, if you were in that situation and you saw that, and now you proceed to ruin dinner by not responding to things said, by being antagonistic in the conversation that you all are having, simply because of your misconception, and then you will do that. The second question is now, can you in that moment, you plural everybody out there, can you identify when you are in fact tripping? And if you can't, how many times have you been tripping, or have you tripped in the past and ruined situations that really could have gone an entirely different way because of a misconception? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is tripping. Let's see what else we can get into. I was talking about being covetous and not knowing that you're covetous. Now, covetousness, as far as I understand it, is you. I saw Julie Mango. I saw Julie Mango make a video the other day, as he says, how Jamaicans use the same word to define a word. So being covetousness is when you covet someone. Covetousness is when you covet someone. This is me using the same word to define the word. Yeah, that's how I'm Jamaican. That's how we do it. Ask Julie Mango, right? Covetousness is when you, I don't have another word. It's when you're covetous. Somebody help me out here. What's another word for covetous? Anyways, it is when you desire something that is really not yours, and the desire you have for it becomes so overwhelming that you're acting upon it. So it is you wanting something that is not yours. You're wanting to treat it as yours, and you have a kind of unhealthy desire for it. Okay, you desire to have it in an unhealthy way, and it is not yours to have. Okay, now we are saying being covetous and not knowing it. Envy is a good one. I thought of envy. Envy is a good one. It's when you're envious of something. It's when there's something out there you want to have it, but the and it's not just any old thing, it's the way you want to have it surpasses just normal. Because we all want things. We see things and we want things. We can see and admire something. It's like that difference between admiration and when it crosses over into the crazy. So that's where covetousness comes in. Bad mind, there you go. Somebody break it down for me. It's when you're bad mind. It's when I appreciate that. It's when you see somebody has something and you have an unhealthy desire for it. You're bad mind them feet. You want it under yours. You're not willing to do anything to have it. You're just bad mind. So being covetous, and not knowing it and acting on that covetousness. So it's almost like, so you see someone and the person has something and you're covetous of them. And in the same way, one of the instances we mentioned before, you now start treating that person and responding to the person in a negative way, even though the person has not done anything to you to harm you in any way, shape, or form. But every day you see them, you have a negative attitude toward them. If they say something to you, you're cold toward them. They say pleasant good morning, you're like, you just you're not treating them the way you treat everybody else, because you're covetous of them, right? And because of your covetousness of them, it in turn is causing you to trip. It is in turn is causing you to be acting upon unsubstantiated facts that you do not know to be true, but that you believe to be true and have convinced yourself that they are true, and you're acting upon them. That, ladies and gentlemen, is tripping. Let me see what Patrice has here. Patrice says, and this tripping is larger because the person is insecure, and sadly, most of the time, the trigger situation has very little to do with the other party, but because of the tripper's mentality. You're 100% true. Because like we say, let's remember here, like we're saying, tripping, and when somebody is tripping, it actually has nothing to do with the person, or largely does not have anything to actually do with the person that the tripping is directed toward. Tripping is almost unanimously in the head of the person doing the tripping. You see what I'm saying? The person that the tripping is directed toward sometimes is unconscious of it. So here you are, you're acting out of sorts, you're bent out of shape, you're acting out of character because you think someone doesn't like you, because you're jealous, because you're covetous, And the people that you are having these type of behavior or feelings toward are totally unaware that this even exists. This is you, like Alice in Wonderland, by yourself, conjuring up a situation that does not exist outside of Wonderland. And everybody else in the real world, you're out there in Wonderland. That, ladies and gentlemen, constitutes tripping. Now, let's look at another one. And this was mentioned: insecurity or feeling belittled. Insecurity tied to feeling belittled. Okay, now, the insecurity in and of itself is a situation that causes a lot of people to trip. Because when you are insecure, it's literally, where my shades, I don't have my shades. It's literally like you have a pair of shades over your face. And everything you see through those shades. You see through that glasses on your face. Everything you see through that. Insecurity is like that. So your perception of everything that pops up is viewed in a way like it's viewed through a screen, right? Because of your insecure. So when somebody comes across and just say hi, you say, "What am I show off? What am I show this and am I show that?" Or when somebody is just going about their regular day, doing regular things, you are perceiving it an entirely different way because you're insecure. So when I say something to you or ask you a question, you feel belittled by the question that I ask, even though it's an innocent question, because of your insecurity. So you're perceiving me as belittling you when I'm not even belittling you at all. The iconic advisor, Sharonette Higgins the first, bless up yourself, my dear. Bless up yourself. Now check this. We're talking about, so Sharonette, I'm gonna give you a synopsis because you just jump in and I know you like the pasa pasa. We're talking about tripping. We're talking about what constitutes tripping. We talked initially about the if you Google tripping, you probably get a definition, so like behaving in an irrational or crazy way. My definition that I came up with said it is when someone is in their head. I thought you'd like that. It is when someone is in their head or when someone thinks something that is not substantiated by any evidence, but they believe it to be so. And before seeking validation for their thought, they go ahead and act on their unsubstantiated thoughts with the assumption that they believe these thoughts to be true and correct. And we're saying that this causes friction when this happens. Some of the scenarios of tripping that we looked at is when someone thinks someone else doesn't like them, or when someone is being jealous, or when someone is being covetous, or we're at now when someone is insecure and feeling belittled. Now, one of them that you might like is the first one, or the second one we looked at is when somebody is jealous. And we were saying sometimes you can have two people sitting down, and men are really the ones that are the victims of this more often than not. If I were to say so myself, men are victims of this more often than not, where a man and a woman is sitting down, another woman pass, and the man looks at the woman, and the woman he's sitting with thinks he's looking at the woman because he likes the woman. And he could simply be looking at the woman because the tag on her dress is hanging out, or the tag on her skirt or pants is hanging out. And that's what he was looking at as she went by. And the person sitting across from you thinks because of how the woman looks, they perceive that you like the person. And now for the rest of the day, probably even into tomorrow, you get all kind of shade from that person because they perceived you to have liked the person that passed, even though you didn't. Delana Dowdy, Happy New Year, my friend. Big up yourself. Controlling is one. What's your thing? Controlling is one which sometimes supersedes jealousy. Controlling, tripping. Okay, Sharon, let's talk about that. We're saying, let's look at controlling as tripping. Okay, so, and I was going to leave that one for later, but let's get into that one. I actually like that one quite a lot. So what I discovered recently is that there are a lot of people out there that are bullies. They're emotional bullies, okay? They are emotional bullies, which can be filed in the same phylum that Sharon just mentioned of controlling. It is someone that is using their emotions to influence you. They're essentially bullying you, right? They're bullying you, they're trying to control you, and a lot of the times they're actually tripping. So I perceive, I perceive, let's look at the same scenario we've used before. Man, woman sitting down at dinner. Woman passes by. Man looks at woman passing by because her tag is hanging out of her dress. Woman that he's sitting with perceives him to be liking the woman that goes by, right? And she now proceeds to start acting upon him with her emotional influence. All of a sudden, he's now under a whole bunch of pressure. She have them boxed in left and right. You see, look how much time I tell you. Every time I look for a woman, all these things that she just brings a whole bunch of artillery and start firing that body left, right, left, right, left, right, right? Even when he just innocently looked at someone with no ill intent and nothing outside of just looking at the person, but here he is now staring down the barrel of some emotional control, emotional bullying. Who knows? Maybe she hold hard upon him tonight and say, "No, he can't get none tonight. Nothing can't go on tonight because she not feel well tonight, or he needs to do this, do that." She has him jumping through emotional hoops, essentially, because she's tripping. All of that constitutes tripping. And like we're saying, the whole tripping scenario comes in enough because you are acting on something that is not true. The thing that you are acting on is not true. It is in your head. The Lord is saying very true, to manipulate you. Yes. And a lot of time this happens. A lot of time this happens. You find yourself in a situation with a significant other that really is manipulating you. And it's not that they're twisting around behind you or holding a gun to your head per se. It's just little subtle things. If you've ever been in an adult relationship, you're not supposed to know what I talk about. But these things are tripping because a lot of the times, and it is you acting upon something that is not true. Now, selfishness, like we mentioned, can bring about a lot of barrage of tripping. What I realized recently is this: everybody is selfish. You're selfish, I'm selfish, everybody is selfish. But what happens more often than not is the people that use emotions as a weapon, they will project their selfishness onto you without you realizing that that is what's happening. So what they'll say is they want you to do something and you're being selfish because you're not doing it. You know what I mean? You're so selfish. You used to do this, you don't do it no more. I need you to do this and you don't do it. You're so selfish. How can you be over there doing that when I needed to be over here doing this? You're so selfish. No, it's not that you're selfish. Because guess what? You doing the thing they want you to do fulfills their selfishness. And them giving you a hard time simply because you don't want to do what they want you to do is just them being selfish themselves. However, they package it like a Christmas present with a bow on top and hand it to you as if you are the one being selfish. The way it is presented to you, it's like you're being selfish because you're not doing the thing I am asking you to do. And woe is me, tears are running. I can't believe you're doing this to me. Why are you doing this to me? I can't believe you're so selfish. All I need you to do is this, and you refuse to do it because you're over there doing that, and I need you over here doing this. And you now are in a state where you are very subtly being bullied emotionally because somebody else is tripping, because they have a perception of something that is not true and they're projecting that onto you. They have a misconception that they're holding onto and they are using their own desires to project onto you. And a lot of times, instead of stepping back and looking at the situation for what it is, we fall victim to it. We start feeling bad. We feel like we have to do these things for these people because we love them. When in truth and in fact, they're being selfish. They're just more, their kung fu is just better than our kung fu when it comes to the emotional kung fu. Their emotional kung fu is better than your emotional kung fu. So they have successfully convinced you or defeated you into or convinced you that their way of thinking is correct. And sometimes it's not. I'm sure this saying self-centered equals selfish. I agree. They just want you to do what they want to do, and that's the way it must be. And sometimes It's just them being selfish. You know what I mean? And a lot of times too, like we said, it is coming from a misconception. You know what I mean? So it's almost like this. Say, let's look at, we're going to keep working the example we have with the man and the woman sitting down and the next woman pass, right? And you now want to go out with your boys later. And somehow the person who already thinks something is happening with you and this woman that you simply looked at her tag that was hanging out when she walked past, thinks you're going back on the road to meet up with said woman. Because little bit after the woman passed, you had to go to the restroom. You got up and went to the restroom. And in her mind, you went up to talk to the woman. You have the woman's number. And you are now wanting to go out to hang out with the woman. And she's saying, no, you can't go. You shouldn't go. The water will come out if you go. And all kind of hardens start get drawn. And the entire thing falls under the umbrella of tripping because it originated with something that was not true at all. It originated with a misconception that they had, and they're projecting that misconception onto you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is tripping. Delano is saying it's a matter of perception. It totally is. It's just how you see it versus how I see it. But the emotional kung fu comes in when one person that is tripping or the person under the misconception convinces the other person that they are wrong. When it is just really, it really is just them tripping, and it has nothing to do with nothing else besides them tripping. All right. Now, feeling the need to exert your status on someone is tripping. Before I jump into that, let me see what Delano is saying here. I'm saying I was in a relationship where the person had a very jaded perception of the world and relationships, and that caused a person to perceive life situation in a very dysfunctional way. And there are a lot of people out there like that. There's a lot of people out there like that. I talked about this in a recent show that I had when I was talking about people that are emotionally stuck. Delano is going on to say she thought that every time I was out of her presence, I was cheating. And like I said, Delano, like I was saying, which is still applicable. I had a show recently when I was talking about people that are emotionally stuck. People that had some emotional trauma and they have not actually worked it out. And because they have not worked it out, they are stuck at that point where the emotional trauma happened and are now reacting to that emotional trauma. So the situation you're presenting me now, it could be a simple thing where somebody did cheat on them before. And in their mind, because it actually happened, and maybe they didn't catch it the first time or the second time or the third time, after they found out, they went and revised every action they saw that they thought resulted in it, or every instance that they thought cheating was as a result of. So everything that you do now in that instance that looked like the behavior that they witnessed before now constitutes cheating, because they never actually took the time to work through the hurt that they felt or the hurt that they underwent as a result of the cheating. And because of that, they're stuck emotionally in a place where their brain has not actually worked through the trauma that they experienced as a result of cheating. And because of that, they're now dysfunctional in every relationship that they were involved in after that point, because they're really stuck back there somewhere. You know what I mean? And it could be trauma that they experienced as a child. It could be all kinds of things. It could even the whole bullying, emotional bullying. It could be that this is how they grew up seeing mommy treat daddy. This is how daddy treat mommy. This is how mommy treat daddy, whatever the case is. And here they are now as an adult, not working through those emotional things that they had, that they were stuck in, and now it is causing them to trip left and right in daily, everyday situations that they get in now. Vimba is saying, but then my question is, how do you fix that situation? If we're talking about the being stuck situation, you have to work through it. You have to work through it. If you need to see a therapist, see a therapist. And the last time when I was talking about being emotionally stuck, someone had made a comment that, or it might have been another show I had with, what was her name? One of the guests I had on. And they were saying, talking to a pastor is not a behavioral health professional. He's a pastor. He can preach and he can lead your life to Christ. So talking to the pastor may or may not help. Sometimes you need a professional in mental wellness to help you through. If it's the situation that Delano is talking about, where we're talking about somebody in a relationship that is dysfunctional because they're suffering from a past trauma that they experience, you have to help them through it. But it more often than not, or more likely than not, that person actually needs some kind of therapy. They actually need to go through, I don't know, some trust exercises, or y'all, you sit down and really have some conversations with them and talk them through this thing. Because a lot of times, here's the thing, a lot of our 9 to 5s keep us busy. You add kids to that, you add a significant other to that, and a lot of times we really just kind of settle at a point and move at that point. And it's almost like some of our houses. We have project to do, project to do, project to do, project to do until they pile up. And if you don't get a bunch of days off in a row, or if you're not on vacation and decide you're having a staycation, you just don't get time to do them. You know what I mean? This thing in this corner of the house, this thing in that corner of the house needs to get processed and clear out and whatever. You have a bunch of mail that needs to go through and shred what to shred and file what to file and do what needs to get done from what the mail is saying. All these things pile up. And emotions and situations that require emotional responses and emotionally needs to get emotionally processed sometimes pile up like that in our lives too, because of what our lives are. You know what I mean? And we have to take the time when it's necessary to unravel these things so that we can get back to a state of equilibrium, and then we can actually move forward. But if not, we are just reacting to the place that we are in. And sometimes that place cause us to be tripping left and right because we're misconceiving, we're having misconceptions of every situation that you're in because of where we're at. And we are literally being a dysfunction to the people around us because we ourselves need stuff that we need to process for ourselves. And the example I gave when I was having that show, it's simple. It's the example people give all the time when they're saying you shouldn't go grocery shopping when you're hungry. Because when you're hungry, you buy a whole bunch of stuff at a grocery shop that you don't really need, right? Now, if being hungry can make you do things like that, like spend extra money where you don't have, or buy things where you don't need, and a simple thing like being hungry, how much more can, and usually if you're there, if you're in the grocery shop doing grocery shopping, then it's not that you never had money, it's just that you probably skip a meal or you had a meal late. We're not talking about no 2, 3, 4 days worth of starvation. We're talking about you missed a meal or 2 or 1, right? And now you're grocery shopping and you're buying all these things. And it causes you to buy a bunch of things that you really don't need. And think about how a simple thing like that can alter your behavior. Now, how about something that was actually emotionally traumatic? Not just a little hunger, something that really emotionally traumatic. Think about the effect that that can have on you every day if that is not processed. Remember, when you eat and go grocery shopping, you're not going to pick up half the things you would have picked up had you gone grocery shopping while you were hungry. Just that simple. Because that's an easy situation to fix, right? Now think about a more complex situation to fix. You know what I mean? All right, let's keep this moving here. I was talking about feeling the need to exert your status as one of the tripping scenarios. Feeling the need to exert your status. Now, I found myself in this situation the other day. I saw a young man. I'll give you my example. I saw a young man at work the other day, and he was taking a while to get started. My video is stuck. He was taking a while to get started at work, right? I was in my office. I looked out my window probably 2 or 3 times, and I saw him sitting there, not started. So I went to go talk to him, and the way he responded to me, I felt like he was kind of fresh. So I kind of, I felt in that moment that I needed to exert myself. I'm like, dude, who does this guy think he's talking to? I'm the whatever I am here, And after that, I was like, you know what? If I was in the situation he was in, because he was waiting on a piece of equipment, if I was in the situation he was in, I would have been equally frustrated because he was on time, he was there, and it was an equipment issue that prevented him from going to work. And I doubled back, went to talk to him, and we worked it out, and he and I became actually really cool after that point. But sometimes when we perceive something a particular way, we might feel the need to exert our status onto somebody, whether we are saying we're this, we're that, or the third. But anytime you're in a position where, and sometimes too, sometimes it's when you're insecure. and you feel like, you know what, I need to exert the fact that I am the VP of this, or I'm the this of that, or I've done this, or I have this much money in my pocket, or I have this much money in my bank account, so I can act this way. You're tripping, bro. You're tripping. Because a lot of the times the thing that you're responding to ain't even real. It is your own perception that is telling you that this is what's happening, and sometimes that's not even happening. So your need to exert yourself onto somebody or make them know that, hey, I'm this big whatever that I am. Nah, you're tripping. Um, Sharon it is saying, be honest with yourself and self-searching. We are all victims sometimes that cause us to respond the way we do to a situation. Yes, yeah, Sharon, and yes, this is the whole thing. This is the whole point I'm getting at. We all trip. It's a thing. We all actually trip. The thing of it is, can you identify when you are tripping? Can you identify when you're tripping? Do you know when you're tripping? What do you do when you're tripping? Okay. How do you go about identifying, or do you just continue tripping over and over? You see what I'm saying? That's the thing. We all have these situations that we find ourselves in. But we have to be able to identify when we're tripping. The last one I'm going to look at real quick, actually last two I'm going to look at real quick is oh, actually I looked at this. Being hungry. Actually, I had been hungry tied with being hungry, horny, or tired. Being hungry, horny, or tired. Now, my daughter has like a ESP, they call it, for me when I'm tired. So if I pick her up the minute she comes in the car, she's like, "Daddy, you tired?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I'm a whole different person when I'm tired. My whole demeanor, everything I do, the way I behave is different when I'm tired because I'm tired. And a lot of times being tired will cause me to trip because I'm tired, because now I'm seeing things, I'm misperceiving things because I'm tired. Being horny, you know what I mean? That can definitely cause you to act out of sorts, especially if the person that you think is supposed to be addressing that situation is acting like they're not about that life right now. You know what I mean? That will make you act all out of sorts. That put all kind of man and woman in a trouble all the time, because man perceive woman to not be responding to him the way he thinks he should be responded to, and he goes out in the road and finds something else. All that was happening to the lady is that in her mind, she needed to freshen up, and she never freshened up yet. So she was just not wanting to cross certain lines yet. And here you are in your head thinking it's this, that, and the third. And now you're out there acting upon that when it ain't even like that, bro. You're tripping. So now you're out there chasing something simply because you never give the lady the 5 minutes to kind of sort out her thing the way she like her thing to be sorted out. You know what I mean? And your misconception, you ran with it. And here you are acting out of sauce, tripping left and right. Let's see what Miss Wimbai has to say. Miss Wimbai says it's true that we all have gone through life traumas, like Shernet pointed out. But when you truly love someone, you'll work to recognize when you are tripping and make an effort to deal with the situation differently. This is true. This is true. I agree. However, I think a lot of times people go through life, at least for a good long time, without even taking a while to stop and identify that they are in fact tripping. They have made tripping in these situations a part of their personality. So sometimes it gets to the point where everybody knows, oh no, don't say nothing to him, he's hungry. And you know how he is when he's hungry. Or don't say nothing to him, he's tired. Or you know how he is when he's tired. Right? So we have sometimes gone for years and years to where people can reference this tripping as part of our personality, even because we've, instead of identifying them, changing them, and allowing ourselves to work through them, we've allowed them to become aspects of our personality when they are in fact not aspect of our personality. It's just that we do the same thing every time. We treat the situation in the same way. So every time we're at dinner and any woman walk past and I look upon them, I'm cheating with the woman until our lives become unlivable. Our relationship becomes untenable to where we end up splitting because you were constantly tripping over something that you had that existed only in your head. And now here we are on the opposite sides of the fence because you refuse to actually work through the issues that you had. So yes, it would be nice, but a lot of times we get stuck. Just like the last show we were talking about, we get stuck. Now, I asked, I was talking to the kids today. We were in the car, and I asked the little one. Um, I told her the show that I was going to have today, and asked her what she thought. And she said, I told her to give me a situation of when people were tripping, and she said, when you're in a store, when you're in a store that has a stupid policy, the employee is enforcing the policy, and you're tripping, you are responding negatively to the associate. So I'll give you an example. I there so the supermarkets that I shop at here, one of them is Publix that I get, most of my things from. And there's another one that's a Caribbean super center, they call that one. And I go to that one to get my Caribbean stuff, my yam and banana and them something, right? So you go there, and at Publix, if you have the little cart that you carry in your hand and just sit it on the conveyor belt, the associates will take it out and scan it. At the Caribbean Superstore, if you put the thing on the conveyor belt within the cart, they won't scan it. They'll tell you to take it out. And the first time it happened to me, I was tripping because I'm like, I had literally come from Publix to get this stuff I'm getting from Publix. Then I went to the Caribbean Superstore, and the person at Publix took it out. The person at the Caribbean store is telling me to take it out. I'm like, why would I take it out? You have to physically take it up to pass it across the scanner to scan it, to put it in the bag. Why would I take it out of the cart, put it on the thing, for you to now take it up, put it across the scanner? Like this is doing making two steps out of what can easily be a one-step process. And I was irate. I was irate for a minute. In fact, I went back to that store and purposely would not join the line that young lady was cashing out on. Like I literally had an issue with the person for a minute. But looking at it now, I was tripping. I was tripping because all they were doing was applying the policy that the store had, which is that you have to do that. And yes, the policy is stupid, Yes, the policy is stupid. But I've been going to that place for years. That person was fairly new. And they were probably just doing exactly what they were told to do. But in that moment, it never made sense. I took offense to it and I was offended. And I went back 3, 4, 5 times and joined another line, even when she was the shorter line, because I just didn't want to deal with her at all because of the situation that happened. And ladies and gentlemen, I was tripping, which is to say that when we are in situations and our misconceptions or our emotional baggage or unresolved emotional issues cause us to perceive a situation in a particular way when that is not in fact the case, and we act upon it, we are in fact tripping, and we need to make a conscious effort. Today is the first of the first. We need to make a conscious effort. Let's do it for 2022. See if we can actually take time out to check our situations that we find ourselves in, and identify when we're tripping and make some changes. You know what I mean? Make some changes, because I know that there are a lot of people out there, like I said, we all say things about them. We all know somebody. That's the same show I had when I was talking about being emotionally stuck. I pointed that we all know somebody that we just think is miserable. They've been miserable forever. Since we know them, they're miserable, right? And sometimes it's just they're always responding to some misconception. They have insecurities, something about them don't like, and they have insecurities. I was watching something the other day, and this kid was insecure about her teeth because she had an overgrown teeth or overgrown tooth on both sides. And the she was watching something about some lady, and the lady said, how you know if somebody has an issue with your tooth is if you ask them if you're beautiful or something like that, they say yes, but then they look at the flaw that you have. Okay, so the little girl went to her mother. I said, Mom, do you think I'm pretty? And the mother smiled and said, Yes, I think you're pretty. And then the mother did in fact look in her mouth area. And in the kid's mind, she was like, Yes, you see, you think my teeth look terrible. Because if you didn't think my teeth look terrible, when you tell me I look pretty, you wouldn't look at my teeth. Right? So if you go through life with something like that, that you have some aspect of you, it could be your weight, it could be whatever, and you're like, you tell yourself that anybody that looks like you this way, or look at where what you perceive to be that part of your body, you have an issue with it. And you just walk around grumpy all the time, even when the people that are looking at you, they're not looking at what you think they're looking at. They're just looking at you like it like normal, but in your mind, they're looking at that aspect of you that you're insecure about, and you're responding to it. You're tripping. You're tripping. Snap out of it. You're tripping big time, right? All right, so let's wrap this up. Um, let's see. The reasons for tripping: find it, dissolve it, fix it. Find the underlying reasons for why you're tripping. When you catch yourself tripping in a situation, find the underlying reason. Why am I tripping? Why am I responding this way? You know what I mean? One more thing I'm going to actually mention quickly is a concept known as rebound, being on the rebound, rebounding. It is when you were involved in a relationship, the relationship ended, and shortly thereafter you get involved with someone else because you're on the rebound. Because of whatever you were lacking or whatever caused that thing to crash, you find the very first next thing that presents itself and look nice and shiny, and you bounce into it, right? And a lot of times it's really because you're looking for somewhere to store your luggage, like you're on a plane. You have a whole bunch of things in the suitcase we need to pack out and sort out. And instead of packing it out and sorting it out, you zip it up and store it. So you find somebody else, them nice, them this, them that. You take up your whole emotions in the bag and put your their feet and walk away as if that is good. You know what I mean? Nah, you're tripping. You are in a particular situation, you're perceiving it in a negative way, and you're acting upon it. That I'm gonna leave for another day. I think I can make a whole show to that one. But identify the reason you're tripping, resolve it, fix it, move forward from it. All right. Being emotionally stuck, like I said, is something that we can often find, because guess what? The response we have to it, the response we have to being emotionally stuck is usually pretty consistent, right? The responses we have to being emotionally stuck is usually pretty consistent. The responses we have to the whole tripping scenario, whatever the situation is, it's usually pretty consistent. It's usually very consistent, actually, because we have identified essentially, or we are not identifying when the triggers come about, and because of that, we keep responding in the same way. So, as we close for 2022, ladies and gentlemen, let us try to identify one of those things that we do that fall under tripping, one of those things that we do that falls under some misconception that we have in our head that we are responding to, and we are wrong about the misconception. It is in fact a misconception. It is something we are wrong about. It is something we are perceiving a particular way that is not that way, and we're responding to it to our own detriment a lot of the times. All right. That's all I got for you, boys and girls. Thanks for joining the Evening People Show. I didn't even mention my book. If this is your first time watching the show, or if you haven't seen the show in a while, if you don't know, if you don't have a book, I have a book. I'm a poet. I write poetry. The book is back there. It is called Love, Life, Confrontation, Expressions. Selections from the Chronicles of a Black Man. If you're in Jamaica, it is at Fontana Pharmacies in Kingston. Both Kingston locations, Mandeville, Montego Bay. Anywhere else you are, it's on Amazon.com. If you're in Jamaica, it's in Amazon.com even, right? Thanks for joining the Evening People Show. This is our first show for the year. I have a lot of good guests lined up for you. I have a lot of shows like this show where I'm just talking to y'all about things that y'all might not be thinking about, and you need to be thinking about. I have several of those shows piled up for y'all. All right, boys and girls, thanks for joining the show. And as we embark upon 2022, there's one thing I'm going to implore you to do in 2022. I was talking to a friend today, and we were talking about how a lot of people seem to have, and I will make a short of this too. A lot of people seem to have become nicer lately. A lot of people in 2021 experience death, not because of some long-standing illness or issue that a family member had, but death because of the novel COVID-19 virus. And because of that, because of death sometimes comes like that, where somebody healthy, happy, living their life 2 weeks later is dead, we've started to appreciate the fact that some of the things that we've taken for granted for a long time, we shouldn't really be taken for granted. We should actually make a conscious effort to acknowledge these things, to acknowledge these people, to love upon these people, because they might not be here forever. The fact that the virus is catching just about anybody, anywhere, anytime, and you can't tell really who's going to be affected, how, it kind of brings it home for some people where they realize, you know what, this person that I have this issue with, that could have been caused by me tripping. It could have been a misconception that I had. Maybe not like my sister or my brother or my auntie or my uncle or my nephew or my niece that I haven't spoken to in however long. Let's me go talk to them. It's really not that big of a deal. Let me go talk to them. Let's resolve it. Let's move forward. Let me be nice to this person I haven't been nice to for no particular reason. That just wasn't. Because guess what? If they were actually to, if something was supposed to actually happen to them, I would actually have a problem with that. So for 2022, go out there, be happy, be nice to people. You know what I mean? Let's be happy. Let's be nice to each other out there. Let's take care of each other. Let's love upon each other. Right? I thank you for joining the Even People Show. I'm your host, I'm Martin Matthews. And we do this on Saturdays still. I was hoping to go to Sunday, but this job, man. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for checking in. And I'm out. Peace. Y'all still there. Oh, no, hear me say the show done. Oh, no, hear me say the show done. The show done. Wanna go out of the yard. You the tune name. I love to see you smile. These are the after effects. More than you like. Being in your eyes. This is paradise. I love it when you smile. What do you know about this? You see, only people ever watch a show to the end are gonna get this. You understand? This is paradise. You the man say, she showed me that she loves me and I'll never leave her. And anytime I'm with her, she's like my favorite song. And my heart goes thumping, boom, 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 boom. And you best believe me, she can't do nothing wrong. Show me that she loves me and I'll never leave her. Anytime I'm with her, she's like my favorite song. And my heart goes thumping. Alright, that's that. Give her the Ghana bunks. One of the easy though, man, you can't even see her for watch. What you know that easy? Where can you have a dance? Where you go? Everywhere you go is the main attraction. You might not know this song. This song is called Ghana bunks. Damien Foster, pick up yourself. Damien, you're coming late, man. You should have had anything a long time. I don't know if you're still watching. Let's up yourself. Me and you and Antoine have a link. Alright, that's it. Everybody is doing it. But why not? It's the New Year's. Check that one out. Just get quiet. Trust me, I think shot. Girl, and see us over that. Tell me, what you doing? And this never reached me before, me to know what. What's this, Lance? Once the show done enough, but the people them still watch, so that's a while out. It be a long time. Yeah, man, bless up yourself, my friend. Bless up yourself. Antoine link me in there Orlando too. And him will link. So as soon as the schedule settle down a little bit, we're going to meet up a Miller Ale House over Okoe. And I'm going to buy you some drinks, man. And we're going to talk about, you remember when, stories, yeah? I'm watching low. Roll on PC. Let me plug it in back here before it shut off. One chronics for the road. Roll out the pool like the breeze. And if you're tripping, or you should catch yourself tripping at any time, feel free to fix it. Alright, Pastor, best of yourself. I'm going myself too. Nobody don't link your shirt next. You next me. We link you next time. Alright, evening peoples, best up on yourself. Thanks for joining the Evening People Show. I'm gonna keep it down by myself. Are you here? Alright, I'll give you the last piece. Alright, Chronic, what do I say? Sun burning up till it's red. Welcome to Kingston every day. Is a summer every night, feel like a Friday. Them boy that rev the vibe till them series are on my high grade. I make me irate. Still we not the ready eye. For nobody thinks every night a Friday. Oh yeah, oh yeah. General